Another day, another instance where Jasmine Crockett makes a fool out of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, who supports a 34-time convicted felon and yet pretends to be the party who's tough on crime.
Thank you so much to our mayors that are here. And I really quickly want to touch on something, because I know that many of you prepared for today's hearing by making sure that you got a little bit of information about immigrants and crime in your cities. Let me ask each of the mayors, just yes or no, have any of you been made aware of any immigrant that has had 34 felony convictions that has still been able to roam around in your cities? Anyone?
No, ma'am.
34 felony convictions.
No,
from the
Congresswoman.
immigrants. Anybody?
I'm not aware.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm just curious, because we are so concerned about crime, and I know that my Republican colleagues would never want anybody with 34 felony convictions roaming around, because that could be a danger to the community, but I will move on. The Republicans put more effort into producing their little propaganda trailer for this hearing than they have into reforming America's immigration system. And that's why we're here today. In fact, Republicans are beating up on the vast majority of you about what you're doing for your citizens, but the last time I checked, you're actually showing up. You may or may not be aware, but the NRCC just instructed Republicans to stop their town hall meetings because their constituents were showing up and telling them to do your jobs. If I had to sum up some of what you have said thus far today, I would sum it up as you have been trying to tell them as politely as you can to do their jobs. In fact, we know that they have not done their jobs, and so they're trying to force you to do it for them by turning your local law enforcement officers into ICE agents. They have this fake outrage about how immigrants are stealing resources and jobs from Americans when residents of Boston, Chicago, New York City, and Denver are subsidizing public services in their districts and their states because the Republicans refuse to ensure that their constituents earn a livable wage. Look, they don't have a plan to fix immigration in America because they don't want to. Mass deportation isn't a plan. Arresting kids in schools or worshipers in church isn't a plan. But there are important points to discuss as it relates to immigration in America. So, Mr. Beer, in January, you testified before the Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration, Integrity, Security, and Enforcement. During that hearing, we played a little game called Rhetoric or Reality. Do you remember that?
I remember, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead for round two, why don't we? Rhetoric or reality? Immigrants are a burden to the American taxpayers because they deplete our federal resources.
That would be rhetoric.
Correct. In fact, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that immigrants will lower U.S. deficits by a cumulative $1 trillion and increase the U.S. economy's size by nearly $9 trillion over 10 years. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In 2023, 47 million immigrants paid nearly $652 billion in taxes, $58.1 billion in taxes alone into Texas. Rhetoric or reality? During his first administration, Trump improved enforcement of U.S. immigration laws.
He did not.
In fact, President Trump closed almost all immigration courts for removal proceedings, cut prosecutions for unauthorized entry by 87%, cut ICE removals to the lowest level in the history of the agency, and released 9,000 people with violent crime convictions back into our communities. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
So rhetoric or reality? President Trump's immigration policies make American communities safer.
No, they don't make communities safer.
In fact, nearly 100,000 unauthorized immigrants have obtained legal status through their cooperation with law enforcement. And local law enforcement agencies have more than 300,000 pending requests for immigrants seeking legal status based upon their cooperation with law enforcement, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Is that correct?
That's right. Immigrants work with law enforcement to stop and solve crimes.
Thank you. That was one of my rhetoric or reality questions. Sorry. The question was immigrants without legal status can help stop crime. That's correct.
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
All right. And Mr. Beer, isn't it true that Republicans are threatening to illegally strip cities of law enforcement grants intended for local policing and public safety if they don't go along with Trump's immigration agenda?
That's right. They want to redistribute the fiscal burden onto the Democratic cities and away from the Republican one.
Jasmine Crockett, they're having fun with some of the mayors because they had to sit for hours listening to House Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace. And if you don't know who Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nancy Mace are, well, oh, you are so better off for it. Now, Jasmine Crockett there obviously making the point that the Republican Party, whose leader is a 34-time convicted felon, they want everybody to think that they're the party who's tough on crime. They're the party who backs the blue, except for their leader is the 34-time convicted felon who once attacked Capitol Police because he lost an election because he's a huge baby. That's who Donald Trump is. I mean, the hypocrisy of the Republican Party just goes on and on. They say they speak for real Americans, yet they're canceling their town halls and speaking events because real Americans are showing up to protest House Republicans. They say that they're the job creators, but all they want to do is just cut taxes for billionaires like Elon Musk and Trump's buddies at Mar-a-Lago, all those people who donate to the campaign coffers of the Republican Party. They say they have a plan to cut the costs of groceries, but when Donald Trump spoke about the price of eggs during the State of the Union, all he did was just blame Joe Biden. Said Joe Biden was the worst president in the history of the United States. Just absurd. And then playing rhetoric with reality there for the second time with Bayer, one of the witnesses. And there was a really important moment that ended this clip where Jasmine Crockett talks about Donald Trump threatening to take away blue cities' law enforcement grants, illegally, mind you, because they won't adhere to the insane Trump illegal immigration policies that they're trying to use as theater to feed the base, to feed the mega morons. They want to throw them as much red meat as possible. So actually today, J.D. Vance held a press conference at the border, and he spoke for maybe 5 minutes before taking a few questions from right-wing media. Not being serious at all when it comes to the problems that we have at the border. And that goes back to the end of the Biden administration when Donald Trump told House Republicans to kill the immigration package that they were putting together, the bipartisan immigration package, and they did it because they care about optics. They don't care about really solving problems. And that goes back to like the entire point of this video. Whenever you hear a Republican say that they've got answers for something, you gotta push them on it. You gotta demand the details because they don't have it. Let me know what your thoughts are on Jasmine Crockett's pretty intense line of questioning here, highlighting the fact that Donald Trump is a 34-time convicted felon and the GOP wants to pretend like they're the ones who are tough on crime, especially by throwing immigrants under the bus. Share your reflections down in the comments below and be sure to subscribe to Reflect Politics so that you get any future videos like these great moments from Jasmine Crockett delivered straight to you. My name is Brendan Plank. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.